Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about AI again. Today we're going to be taking a little bit of a different approach, Darren. It's going to need you to be open-minded. You need to be open-minded. Now, people seem to think that I'm sort of anti-AI or completely against AI in the music industry and more broadly. That's not necessarily true. So today I'm going to kind of look at the point of view of someone who is looking to potentially use AI to release music or promote music and make money potentially. So this could be kind of anyone else in the music industry, really. Whether you're potentially a small record label or a management company, anyone who kind of invests in music, really, because it's not just about artists. There's lots of other people in the music industry who are making this thing tick. So I'm going to try and I'm going to be devil's advocate today, right, and outline what the advantages are of doing the whole AI record label approach, releasing AI music and working with AI as your main source of kind of music creation, right? So as I say, people think that I'm kind of quite anti-AI in music. Like I said, that's not particularly true. I'm not anti it as such, but I do think it needs to be regulated. It needs to be licensed properly, which to be fair, it is starting to be. And I actually think a good way to resolve the whole AI music thing is to have a lower payout for AI created music than real created music, but there's a lot of complications involved in that. But that would be my suggested way forward. Right, but I'm going to start with some stats, okay? So these are fairly recent, and I do actually have to credit Stuart Dredge and the Prizes Music podcast, because that's where I've got these stats from. And I might be slightly off, but some general numbers are that, and this one shocked me, over 20% of all music that's ever existed on DSPs, Spotify and Apple Music, was uploaded last year. So think about that, right? The number of all the songs that exists on DSPs ever, 20% of it was uploaded just last year. Obviously, AI music is a big part of why that's happened, because it had its biggest boom kind of last year. Around 40% of new music uploaded last year was AI. So around 40% of all the music, every single song that was uploaded last year, 40% of it was AI. But, and this is the crucial thing, that AI music only accounted for 0.5% of the revenue of that music. So lots of it's getting uploaded, but it's not actually making loads of money at the moment, right? Could it in the future? Not sure. We'll see. People will start to get more sophisticated with this and start to understand it more. So this is a bit of a trigger warning for all you musicians out there. Don't get triggered by this, right? These are facts, okay? I've written down just some of the disadvantages to working with musicians. And I have over a decade of experience of working with musicians, and these are all true. How long it takes a real musician to deliver music or assets, the creative limitations of a musician's attitude problems. Musicians sometimes don't want to promote their own music. Musicians sometimes think they're better than they are. Sorry, but they do. And as a result of that, they blame the record label or their manager for the fact that they're failing, right? Or they're not doing as well as they should be. Ultimately, you have to deal with a human being who has their own life, their own circumstances, their own things going on. Artists demand budget, they demand expenditure, they demand a lot of you. They expect you to keep promoting and investing in them, even when you know that this isn't working, this is failing. Also, you have to deal with managers a lot of the time. Sometimes managers come on board halfway through a project and have this whole new set of rules and expectations that you have to then deal with. Likewise, sometimes a manager gets sacked halfway through a campaign, so you have to deal with that. And obviously the crucial disadvantage is artists need to get paid. You have to pay them, you have to split your royalties with them, right? So these are all reasons about what's difficult to work for a musician that are navigated straight away if you're dealing with an AI. An AI doesn't have any attitude problems. An AI doesn't have a manager who you hate. An AI will always deliver assets on time. You don't have to split royalties with an AI. So there's all of these things which up front make releasing AI music for the industry, for a record label, very appealing to start with, right? And make it seem like if you're an independent record label who wants to do this, you can have more control, more royalties, and you don't have to rely on an artist and the unreliability of working with creative people, right? But there are some very crucial disadvantages of working with an AI artist compared to, Steve, who's a real person, right? The crucial thing being that AI artists don't have the core marketability of a human being, right? Whilst it is possible to create AI influencers, AI humanoids, people that on the social media level will appear to be relatively human or pretty indistinguishable, it's possible to create these entities, but it's not easy to have them living a real marketable kind of life, right? Creating a hyper-realistic, fully functioning visual artist that will post regularly, promote their music and do things to a consistent brand with video, it's possible, but it actually still does require quite a bit of technology at this point. It's not a simple thing, right? Most people won't understand how to do it, and it still requires quite a lot of work and quite a lot of prompting, okay? Doesn't mean it's not possible, but it requires work, okay? And even if you are able to create an AI artist who is really realistic and has lots of content and has an endless funnel of content, they still won't have the core marketability of a real rock star or a real rap artist, okay? They won't be able to perform any of their songs live or in content. They won't have the human connection that a real music artist will have, okay? On top of this, an AI artist only really has one source of revenue, which is the royalties on a song, right? Master royalties. They might be able to register with PRS. I don't really know how all of that works, but it's essentially streaming royalties, downloads. They won't have any Bandcamp royalties because they have banned AI music. So they only have one way of making money, and that's through streaming. Whereas a real musician has kind of 4 or 5 key revenue drivers, right? That's live music, fan clubs, potentially, merch, as well as kind of streaming, sync deals, publishing. So there is more opportunities for money with a real artist than there is with an AI artist. Also, crucially, we don't know how Spotify, Apple Music, Suno, all of these people are going to move forward in terms of kind of how royalties of AI music is split. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point there is a law put in place whereby AI created music gets a lower royalty rate on DSPs, because that's entirely possible. So to kind of summarize here, right? Why would an industry executive or a record label owner decide to go down the AI route for what they're doing, right? There's only really one answer, right? And it's churn, ease of use, and kind of not having the disadvantages of having to work with a real musician, right? So how can you, as a real musician, I assume you're watching this and you're real, how can you distinguish yourself from the advantages that the AI has, right? You could do it by, if you're going to be working with a record label or you're going to be working with a distributor or manager or someone that's going to promote your music, make sure that your branding and your personality is available through your content and through what you're doing, through your fan clubs, through your, your Discords and your social media and stuff like that. Because while AI, we've seen through the stats earlier today that AI is able to generate at churn a lot of music, but that doesn't necessarily lead to profit. Remember, 40% of uploads are AI, but they only result in 0.5% of revenue, right? So churn and mass doesn't necessarily mean profit. So you can stand out by trying things on social media. Don't be one of those artists who's not willing to put themselves out there to promote their content, because that's where AI does have the advantage over you, because that will be able to put out content and it will be able to put out more music than you, right? But what an AI can't do is replicate a personality.